Hi everyone, I'm Iman. So I'm probably the newest Lakeside member here. I just joined in January of 2021. I also did my internship at Lakeside from 2018 to 2019, and I liked it so much, so I came back. I'm on the process automations team, and like you said, I'm a control systems engineer. So I just work to help design the control networks for our customers. Said, even my day to day is different every day. It just depends on what project I'm working on. If it's a new project with a customer that has a different setup than we're used to, then it requires some type of testing to start it off. Or if it's a typical project, then we're setting up the software configuration with our process control system called Delta V. And then, if it's later in the project, then we have to do some testing with the customer just to make sure everything is right, or we have to go to the site to commission the whole process. So it just depends where we're at in a project and what we're doing that day or what my role is that day. Sometimes it's just providing support for a project we've already done. So yeah, it's different day to day, and I think that's like the part I enjoy most about the role. Intro, I went to McMaster for chemical engineering. I just graduated in April of 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, which was interesting. Was in the co-op program there, so most of my career until now was just internships actually. So I did I think three different ones. I was at RBC for a term, Toronto Hydro, and then my last one was with Lakeside. And then that's kind of what ended up bringing me back to Lakeside full time. All the positions were really different, but I think like the co-op program was great. It provided like a really good learning experience for me personally, and also like it helps like for future employers to see that you already have experience coming out of school. But yeah, I really enjoyed the co-op program, and I recommend like those kinds of internships to anyone who's in school because I think it makes a huge difference. I think one thing that definitely was hard, with COVID, like this year's of course been different for everybody. And graduating during COVID was really strange, and like, the world is different, the job market's different. It was a different environment from what I was expecting. And so it was really interesting, and it was like a challenge to to decide like what to do, and if I should take some time off or if I should go to grad school, and things like that, because like the job market was pretty competitive. And so yeah, it was definitely something that was hard to navigate. I just decided that, like, in the time I'm spending looking for a job, to just try to use as much time as I can. And so I took some online courses, and I just tried to develop as many skills as I could, until I found a full-time position. And I think that definitely helped me a lot. It kept me busy and like kept me on top of things, and motivated, to keep trying, and to try to find a full-time position that I'm happy in, and I'll enjoy. And yeah, and that's what ended me up at Lakeside, where I'm now. Do going into university, I was when I was younger, I was also the kind of person that wanted to try a bunch of different things. And like, I was never really set on one thing. I used to, even with hobbies, I'd like switch all the time. And so I wasn't sure exactly what career path I wanted to take. And then deciding on engineering was mainly because I enjoyed math and physics so much in high school, and I was trying to look at the options that would take me down that career path to see what I would enjoy most. And that's how I ended up deciding on engineering. With me, like, I didn't actually know, I don't think, any women in engineering until I started university. I have three older brothers. I don't have any sisters, so I grew up with boys. And my one of my older brothers did engineering, but it was never, I never really thought of it like as like, everyone always says like, oh, it's mainly a male dominated industry. And so taking that risk was a bit hard, because people would tell me, like, when I was choosing what to do, that if you choose a different career path, it might be a bit easier because you won't have the same challenges that you might have in engineering. But I just tried to tell myself that, like, even as cheesy as it is, people always say that if you enjoy what you do, you won't really have to work a day in your life. And I just took that to heart, and I always kept that in mind, even though it sounds so cheesy, and everybody says it all the time. I think it's really true. If you enjoy what you do, then you won't really have to work as much. And I think that, like, especially when you're young, taking those risks is really important because you don't have as much like responsibility or as much on your plate. So even if you stumble, you can always find a new path or continue on that path if that's what you choose to do. Engineering is not a super easy program to do in university. It's a lot more intensive than some of the other programs. So like I myself did stumble a bit, in school, with certain courses being harder than others. But just, if making sure that if you enjoy what you do, just keep trying. Like everybody said, I think that's the key to everything.
No, thank you.
So I think what's like really most important when it comes to like your work life balance is just making sure you set aside time for yourself in whatever way that may be, whether it's like spending time with your family or spending time just on your own to relax. I think like you said, society puts a lot of pressure on women to have a certain type of life, to do things by specific age, whether it be like society here or even cultural background. I know that's a lot of pressure in certain cultures, even in mine, to be married by a certain age or have children by a certain age and all these things. But I think like the way I've always looked at it is that, like, as long as I'm happy where I am in my life, it doesn't really matter what other people think about it. I know it's hard to just take that stance and stand your ground on it. But as long as you're happy with where you're at and you're happy with what you're doing in your life and who you're spending time with, then I don't think it really matters what other people think your life should look like, right? um, and I don't know, that's just the perspective I've taken so far. I'm sure, like, as I get older, like there's more pressure, the older you get, especially I've noticed that in my culture specifically. So I'm just trying to navigate it myself to try to find the best path. But just setting time aside for yourself and looking at what you want, and just making sure you're happy in whatever you're doing, in your family life and in your work life, I think is really important.